All right. Well, here we go. This is an one-on-one interview with Gianmarco Soresi. Am I saying it correctly?
I mean, it's so close. I
Okay.
hate to. It's Gianmarco Soresi.
Gianmarco. I like that better though. It's easier to say.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Tell
Yeah,
me about your background, where are you from, and all that. Start off.
sure. So, grew up in Maryland. I tell people DC, but I'll be truthful.
Uh-huh.
And I was a theater kid. I was just a big theater kid.
Okay.
Went to college for musical theater. Joined an acting company,
Okay.
and moved to New York with a lot of dreams.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then a lot of people will say, "So how are you going to stand up?" And I'm like, "Oh, because the acting went so well. It went so well that at 26, I said, I'm done with this." Um, like every actor, I was writing, starting to create my own work. Like I never thought of myself as a writer until I couldn't get any work as an actor. Then I was like, oh yeah, I guess I am going to create my own plays. Um, and I did something for the Fringe Festival in New York,
Mhm.
where I had a lot of talking to the audience. And a friend of mine took me out to lunch, and she said, you should do this. So I'd always liked stand up, but it's a different life. It's a no more nights ever again free, no money for a long time. But that's why I kind of switched then and there. I started working at a club in New York called LOL, which is a rough place.
Okay.
Kind of it's when you go to Times Square and the people that are yelling at you to come to a show, telling you Roseanne might stop by. That's LOL. And I did every check spot there for a year, which uh, check spot is where they put down the check as you're performing. So it's yeah, that's what they give to like newer comics. That's their kindness, and it's tough because it's the toughest spot of them all.
Yeah, they're
Um,
distracted, right? People are distracted.
oh, not just distracted, but also realizing they've been scammed,
Oh.
and they're looking at the number and they're looking at you and they're going, these things don't match. So I just did that for, I must have done 4, 5 shows every day for like a year. And I'm glad I did it. I started like at 26 or 27, and I'm glad I did it then, because the thought of doing that now, I wouldn't make it. I'm 22 now, and it's so then from there, just started getting into more clubs.
Mhm.
Finally got into the Comedy Cellar last year. Those felt big deal, and
Yeah.
started kind of touring around the country. I was really about to start in March 2020. I had about 8 dates on the books, and then everything canceled, and now I'm back on track.
Yeah. Tell me about this musical theater. Would you have a favorite musical of all time?
My favorite musical is Falsettos
Oh,
by William Finn. Kind of a niche pick. If I were to say a little more normal, it would be I guess A Sunday in the Park with George, or Nine.
okay.
All shows with roles I would want to play.
Yeah. Falsettos is a super gay show. That's super gay.
It is, and one could, as a straight man,
Uh-huh.
there's plenty of questions to be asked. There's something I've always said. There's something about Marvin's narcissism that I relate to,
Okay.
and there was just like some summer, my mom and stepdad were going through a tumultuous time. They ultimately got divorced, but the summer that I first listened to Falsettos, it was also the same like summer I stood up to my stepfather. And I think there's just something about like wherever it was emotionally entwined in my DNA. It's
Hmm.
just something about that show is also about like me becoming an adult.
Yeah.
So
That's
who
cool.
knows? But I love it.
Yeah. Um, so describe your act to people. What's the setup? What do you do?
It's very personal. I definitely have a mix of like kind of uh dark one-liners where there's a real twist at the end, but I think what I do is I make them really intimate about my parents' divorce, kind of being egotistical in this world. And so they're novel and they're interesting, but they're also very like they're just very personal in a way that I think lets people connect to them. Or I love, obviously, when I can have anyone who has divorced parents in the crowd. I feel like I really try to capture kind of deep truths in what might be on its surface kind of just a funny line about what it was like having parents that get divorced when you're a baby. Mm-hmm. And then I'm a theatrical guy, you know. I move around the stage, so I really feel like my act, because I come from an acting background, has more diversity in the things I do. There can be one-liners here, act outs over here, long form stories over here. Uh-huh. But I really try to bring everyone on a journey, and it's very punchline heavy. I mean, okay. I think it says something about the state of stand-up comedy that sometimes people are called like joke comedians, which I think they all should be. Mm-hmm. But it's if you didn't like the last one, there's another one coming in 10 seconds.
Nice. Yeah, you know, I've talked to a lot of comedians about navigating, you know, comedy now, how it is, how the landscape is now. You know, Steve Harvey said he would never do stand-up again because because
he only had 5 minutes.
Yeah,
he couldn't do it again.
Probably. Well, that's probably the real reason. But he was talking about, you know, the PC world and everything like that. And then I interviewed Monique right after that, and she was like, "Shame on him. He should be out there doing it. You know, that he shouldn't."
Well, sometimes, I mean, I don't know if sometimes people that Steve Harvey, they're so busy. Mm-hmm. Stand-up is really hard. And so a lot of these famous people are very successful, very busy people. Mm-hmm. When they come back, it sucks because they don't have the time for it. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, it'll be interesting. Like at the Cellar, Aziz Ansari will come back to the Cellar, and he has a special coming out on Netflix soon where it's filmed at the Cellar. They announced it. I'm not speaking out of turn, but let me tell you, I mean, he was working. If Steve Harvey is going to come to the Cellar and run 4 hours in a night bouncing around, sure, he could maybe figure it out. But that cancel culture thing is bullshit, because I know, first of all, Steve Harvey's not that offensive of a comedian. He was never the bold, oh, what did Steve Harvey say? There are so many comedians doing way more fucked up things out there. And cancel culture, as we all know, it's this catch-all that doesn't really mean anything. Of course, there's possibilities of like a specific joke being taken out of context, being turned into the algorithm, everyone piling on. But that's like me not crossing the street because I'm scared an invisible car is going to hit me. Like it's not a true fear. People use it just to excuse not wanting to do something or laziness or anything. I do have jokes that I get nervous about from time to time, but usually when I fine-tune them and I think they're really funny, I'm not nervous about them. I did some joke about R. Kelly that I ended up closing my Comedy Central set with. And it really is a vocabulary joke about the term pedophile, hebephile, and ephebophile. And I did it on TikTok as a front-facing video, and people went wild with it. The joke was about R. Kelly, but they were calling me a pedophile in like these videos on TikTok, and hundreds. There's thousands of them, and you could call that cancel culture. But the joke was strong enough. I closed out the Comedy Central with it. There, you got it on video. It's not a front-facing. You see people understanding it. Wow. And it's out there, and nothing has happened to me other than more people know who I am. Sure. And none of those people who got mad at me or who like made it something else remember, because they've moved on to someone else and someone else. And one day, hopefully, a therapist will help them realize it's about their parents. But it's something that comedians like to talk about because it's easy to complain about. It's easy to use as a sticking point or to blame. But ultimately, usually if your jokes are funny and mathematically put together and work, you'll be fine.
Got it. Okay.
Now I say that now. If I get canceled in a couple months, I'll be back saying cancel culture has gone too far. The world we need more forgiveness. So, but right now, this is where I am.
Well, yeah, well, I write for LGBT publications, so, but I'm feeling it's gonna be a safe space for us to show up and
well, sure. It's, I mean, it's, I had one joke, something about, I went to a lot of musical theater camps. And I found out I was straight at musical theater camp because all the guys would go in straight, come out gay. And I was waiting for it to happen to me, but no matter how many of these conversion camps I went to, I still wanted Liza Minnelli to sit on my face. And on Instagram, someone took that one and they wrote slides about how I was making light of the concept of conversion camps. And it's so, again, it's one of those things that like anyone can do it. I know one rule I had. I mean, that joke I don't consider very risque at all, but I think like I would happily tell that joke in a room full of gay men and women who had been sent to conversion camp in their youth, because I don't think, I know in my heart that's not what the joke's about. And that's how I know it's not me trying to poke the fun, because I would feel comfortable doing it in front of people who might be closer to that experience. That's kind of what you say in your head. If you're gonna, like, especially if people are there's a comedian and I saw her on stage, and she's black, and she had a joke about Chinese people, but she had been in China performing in like rooms for just Chinese men, essentially. And her thing was like, if I perform this in front of a room that's just the one kind of person I'm talking about, then it's weird for someone else outside of that to be like, hey, you can't say that. Now, I'm not going to make any Chinese jokes, that's for sure. But as someone who went to musical theater my whole life, there's a lot of gay adjacent material because I grew up in those spaces.
Yeah.
I grew up in those spaces. And so my experience happens to be with a lot of gay people. And I am comfortable with my radar, especially in terms of like, oh, this is not me insulting a gay person. This is something that I know my friend Jay would laugh at.
Yeah. It's very funny. It's a funny joke too. And I met Liza, and I'm sure she'd appreciate it too.
It is my dream to perform that in front of Liza. It is my dream to perform. I was at a Birdland. It was a musical theater show. I was doing stand-up, but she goes to it sometimes. I would do that joke in front of her in a heartbeat. And I feel like she'd get on stage and maybe try to sit on my face right then and there if she could still manage it.
She has a great sense of humor. Yeah, of course.
Oh, Liza's got the best.
Do you like hecklers in the audience or no? Does that drive you crazy?
Yeah, it drives me crazy just because like some people, I like to do crowd work sometimes, but I'm a material guy, and that comes from the acting. I think I have a script and I like to work things out. So I like, if I engage people, we can engage for a moment, but then you hope it stops.
Yeah, moving. Yeah,
because, and that can be fine. Sometimes if there's an interaction and then the person you have at the moment and they stop, it's fine. But the problem is, for a lot of people, that's not what they start doing the whole show.
Yeah,
I was in a casino last weekend in Milwaukee, and there's nothing scary at a comedy show than a white woman in a plastic tiara, because that's a bachelorette party.
Yeah,
and those are notorious. Like it is one of the few things that everyone backstage goes, just so you know, there's a bachelorette party, don't try to engage them. And it's so no, hecklers are not great. Some people think that's what the show is, and there's comedians out there who will just roast the audience, but I'm there to deliver the written word.
Yes. Well, I want to get to the Real Housewives, and I was at Countess Luann's show, and she she lets them take the mic and they run wild. Those girls are drunk on wine and their bachelor
Sure.
parties, and they take over the show. And I guess she just likes that part. I wouldn't like that, but
Yeah,
I
but
want,
does she like it, or does she need to fill the time?
well, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. I think she does. She fills a lot of time because they get on the mic and you get a drunk girl on the mic, and that's a mess.
Yeah, yeah.
Talk about your appearance. You were on the Real Housewives briefly.
Man, it was. I don't think when I went to it, I
Mhm.
don't think I knew that's what was happening.
Oh,
Like someone said, I'm doing a live podcast where you'll do stand up and there'll be an audience.
mhm.
And then I get there and like, there's not really an audience. Like, it is a film shoot. It is a film shoot. And it felt like while they were filming The Real Housewives having dinner,
Uh-huh.
we insisted on putting a stand-up show next to them. And so you're performing kind of there's people there,
Uh-huh.
but they're not looking at you. They're
Oh,
not, there's no audience to speak of. And the French guy, he did stand up. I don't know his name. What's his name?
oh, I don't know.
Oh, he's one of their exes, one of the exes of the Housewives.
Oh, okay. Gosh, I don't keep up with all of them, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He did stand up. It didn't go great. And then one by one, they had us go up and just like bomb our asses off in front of, and I don't do this normally, but
Uh-huh.
it was so overwhelming. It felt like such a no-win situation that one of my friends on the show offered to offered a joint. So I was a little bit stoned too. So I'm
Okay.
stoned. There's cameras there.
Uh-huh.
I in my mind I'm like, they could film me bombing, and that would not be good. This could be bad.
Yeah.
So they called me up there, and I told a 15-minute story that was like, I was like, if I'm gonna bomb, I'm gonna be theatrical. So I was like, I was moving with the story, I was dancing all around. I could hear, the only people paying attention were the crew way in the back. And I could hear a laugh or two back there. So I just hung on that. And I made it through. None of the Real Housewives said, "Oh, good work." They were just eating dinner. And the cameras, there's 10 cameras like right in their faces
Wow.
as you're performing behind them. And I honestly forgot about it until I think it came out like during the pandemic. And there was, I don't even know which one who said, like, I was in that room. I'm very good at assessing energy. I was in that room. It was dead. And I was like, what do you mean it was dead? No one was there. There was no show. Screw you. You can't say that. And I don't think it was Luann, but I'm going to find out whoever it was who said that. I'm going to wait till she does her little one woman tour,
Mhm.
letting drunk bachelorette parties speak. And I'm going to go up to her and say, hey, I was in the room. It was dead.
Yeah.
It was dead.
How was it meeting J-Lo?
I mean, it's one of those things. She was super nice for what the moment called for. It was 1 a.m. I think I had been there since 10 a.m. So it was going late. Everyone was tired. It was one of these things. I'm sure J Lo that day had to change into 20 different outfits. And I was at the bar. She came in. I mean, she was stunning. Just like one of those that when they walk in, you go like, oh, that's a star that walked in the room.
Mm.
And so she stood next to me for like 30 minutes, didn't say anything, and then she introduced herself. And that awkward thing of, hello, I'm Jennifer. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And then I act like we're peers, like, oh, Jennifer, you said? Jennifer. Okay. Gianmarco. Um, and it was such a weird scene because it's basically these three stunning women hitting on me, and I go, oh, I have an early morning, and I leave. And it was one of those moments where like the acting called for me to be nervous and anxious, and I just channeled what I was feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
But
That's
she was
hilarious.
yeah.
Well, it's like the hustlers treated you so much better than the housewives. I mean, that's what.
Yes, very true, very true. J Lo was a big fan.
What are you doing next? With the rest of the year and all that besides touring.
So I mean, the touring is a big thing. I'm doing this thing called Gilda's Laugh Fest and recording some audio for Sirius XM.
Okay.
I'm on a sketch team called Uncle Function in New York, and we do shows every month. And then I'm deciding, is this the year, whether I film a new hour? I think it's a very strange time in comedy where there's a couple of the regular channels, the Comedy Centrals, the Netflix, the HBOs, but like, the Netflix, the folks they're picking, even on their starter levels, are massively successful comedians. So I'm at a place where I don't want to. I want to try to push myself not to wait for any of these entities and go like, I have a social media following. I want to put out an hour. I have it. So I'll just be touring. I'm still new at the Comedy Cellar, so I'm there every moment I can get. I have a girlfriend who was gracious enough when I passed. Our anniversary was the next week, and she said, "Go perform at the Cellar. Do every night you can right now." So
that's a keeper. That's
yes,
great.
she's a comedy manager, not mine, but she has an understanding.
That's great.
She has to go, what would I want my clients to do? Sure, okay, you can go to the Comedy Cellar.
That's cool. Okay.
But the touring life is I'm currently, I'm talking to you from Tacoma, Washington. I'm in North Carolina next weekend, Connecticut the weekend after that, and then soon after Chicago again. And it's a new life, and I'm just kind of making sure, as busy as I get with everything else, that the stand-up and writing the stand-up is always the priority.
Yeah. So February 17th coming up, and I'm looking forward to meeting you at the show face to face. I'm going to come out.
Yeah.
And Lincoln Lodge is a great place. I've been to a few shows there.
Yeah, I've never been there, but I love Chicago. I did a theater program at Northwestern in high school, and I'm going to be in Chicago a little longer this time. So I'm just excited to see. I was there the last time I went there. I was just doing it for shits and giggles, but I went to the Office experience, which is not.
Okay. I did it. Yeah.
Oh, you did it?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, but I want to do more. I want to do some more Chicago-y things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love it there.
Yeah, awesome. Where do you want people to follow you on socials and all that too? What's the best?
Yeah, it's my name at everything, Gianmarco Soresi, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that jazz.
Well, great. It was great talking to you today, and I look forward to seeing you in Chicago soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Stop. Okay.